Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lemongrass's and Google's joint webinar, Using Google Cloud's Accelerators and AI Solutions to Unlock Value with SAP Data. The webinar will be approximately 45 minutes. The first 30 minutes will be Henrik, Brian, and Mayank's presentations. The last 15 minutes will be reserved for Q&A. Please write your questions in the question box, and we will get to them during the last 15 minutes. We'll try to answer all of your questions if time allows. If we can't, someone will get back to you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll now turn it over to Henrik.
Hi there. Thank you very much again for joining us today with Google and Lemongrass. Super excited to go through this content and share some insights, customers, use cases, and some interesting innovations that we see that are available for customers. I think first we want to jump in to show kind of a little more detail on the agenda and then do a little quick intro. So if you go to the next slide. Yeah, so quickly a little bit about our speakers, myself, Mayank, and Brian from Google, a little bit about Lemongrass, and then we're going to really get into the content around Google's perspective as it relates to AI in the enterprise and generative AI. Also going to have Mayank going to kind of some of the capabilities that Lemongrass has built around this space in data, AI, and the accelerators around Cortex. Obviously going to some customer use cases and then have a section on Q&A. So with that, let me first, if you go to the next slide, I'm Henrik Wagner. I'm close to 2 years with Lemongrass, about 20 years in the industry around SAP and cloud. So Brian, you go next for intro.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Jacobs, the Global Cortex and SAP Solutions Lead for Google. And as you can see in my bio, previous to Google for about 18 months, I was 13 years plus with SAP and then 1 year in consulting in between. Excited to be with you.
And Mike?
Hello, everybody. My name is Mayank Madan. I head up data analytics and AI practice for Lemongrass, and my background is into data. I've been working in databases, big data, Hadoop platforms, and then Vision AI, and now into SAP data analytics and Gen AI space for almost 20 years now, and excited to be here. Thank you.
Great. If we go to the next slide, share a little bit about Lemongrass as an introduction. So we were founded in 2008, so close to 15 years in business with the sole purpose of helping customers, SAP customers, move their SAP environments to native cloud in the hyperscale, in this case with Google. I think there's three kind of key areas that we bring to the table and have brought to the table to our customers to be successful. One is the skills around the people in our organization, from the technical to the delivery to the innovation people. And these people have both very, very strong skills in the SAP space, up and down the stack, the technical and functional skills, and then also very, very strong skills when it comes to cloud native Google capabilities in this case, right? So when it comes to end-to-end capabilities from Google and all the microservices, that's the first area, the skilled people. The second thing we bring to the table that we excel is around IP that we bring and that we build to help customers move to cloud, and that's technology we call LCP Migrate, migration platform that helps reduce the risk and really simplify large complex migrations. And then the other IP piece is around our automation capabilities. So when it comes to operating SAP environments in cloud, really being able to simplify that, make it more efficient. The third area that we bring to the table is the experience around doing that. So we've been very fortunate to have working with large enterprise complex customers, and we've done over 300 customer enterprise migrations and 100% success rate. And I think that's a combination of the experience, the skilled people, and the IP we bring to the table. So that's just a little bit of Lemongrass. What we're here to talk about today is obviously the kind of innovation and cloud native microservices that Google brings to the table and that we bring to the table with our skills. So we'll jump right into having Brian walk through kind of Google's perspective, and then Mayank obviously presenting our perspective around how we use these technologies to solve problems for customers. Brian, and go to the next slide.
There we go. Thanks, Henrik. Wonderful opening, and having had the pleasure of working with Lemongrass on many large enterprise accounts, I can validate that everything you said is true. And you want to talk about making material moves that improve the business. Our fortuitiveness of being able to work with Lemongrass has really been an honor since I've gotten to Google. So let's ground ourselves, which is a bit counterintuitive when we're talking about the cloud and what is probably the greatest, I would argue, innovation / disruption in the last quarter century. And what we wanted to talk about is hopefully through my session, and then certainly when Maniac comes on and shows you the tangibility, simplicity, and frankly, ability to consume with the Google stack, that this won't seem like a bridge too far. I have the pleasure of covering the world for Google in this area, and thus I get to talk with customers on different continents and different industries, different sizes and stratas. And frankly, what I found is, number one, they're much more educated and well-read in the topic of AI and generative AI. Number two, they really didn't see this massive uptick coming. And number three, they're eager to consume it. And so what I always like to try to tell them is the story of how it came about. And I think what's interesting when it comes to Google is so many of the promises, open source, open standards, developer communities, curated groups of innovators really are behind all of this. And you think about Google's role in it, we invented the transformer in 2017. We were the research entity that found a better way to essentially much more quickly preview massive data sets, ultimately turn on parallelism with an analysis and really start to improve the math that is behind the prediction of the accuracy of this large language models. And as Google usually does, we released that open source. We said, hey, we would love to work on this, but we think the world as a whole can really drive it forward. You fast forward then to our innovation with TPUs and being able to use, text-based natural language processing, our release of BERT, one of the first, major models, and then ultimately what happened back in November of last year was 100 million people, and now I'm seeing, 140, 200 million people said, hey, I'm ready for this. I want what this provides. And thus, Google is in a wonderful position, a competitive one at that, where we have proprietary models and have opened up third-party models and things like that. But ultimately, what's happened is we've opened ourselves up as a global economy to greater productivity, greater transparency, and frankly, greater use of technology to help us service our customers better, our suppliers better, and ultimately our employees and constituents better. And that is really the simple premise and the simple promise of AI and Google and Lemongrass's approach to it for enterprise clients. Next slide. All right, let's get into some very important distinctions. ChatGPT, Google Bard, many of these large language models, those are consumer grade products. They're wonderful for asking questions on what to do for vacation, or how to take the ingredients of your fridge and whip up dinner for your kids, or fix something in your house. They're wonderful, and I honestly think they will be a nice complement for quick one-off research. What we're here to talk about today is the right side. Enterprise class, secure, IP protected language models that can ultimately be extensions to your structured source systems, your semi-structured systems, and certainly your unstructured systems. In the way these models have to be engineered, delivered, tuned, certainly fit for the roles that are going to access them is seismically different versus the consumer grade models. Why that matters? Because you very quickly, and I think importantly as customers, want to think about picking the right platform and the right partner and people, not the right product. That anybody who says at this moment in time they know what's going to happen with this technology, I don't believe them, because there's so many amazing use cases that we've seen in the 9 months or so that it's really been a thing. And there's so many more that we're seeing every day. If you take nothing else away from this slide, know that there are certain entities, no surprise, that are going to be focused on consumer grade models and large language experiences, and there are certain ones that are going to be focused on enterprise. And Google is clearly in the latter camp, as is our ecosystem with our platinum partners like Lemongrass. So pick the platform, not the product, and be sure that you have people that understand what the implications are for your business. Next slide, please. I think what's most exciting is things that used to take, frankly, months or years, multiple years. When you think about silos of data, you think about inability to do online search, service customers in a more automated fashion, collaborate with vendors. The real promise of what we're seeing and going to be doing is the following. Instead of customers having to think about, do I do a 3 to 5 year transformation project and see what the value is by the end of that project, when I know my business will have fundamentally changed, I'll have done an acquisition, I'll have divested a division now, and I'll basically be beholden to that new platform. Now we can say, I'll meet you where you are, I'll minimize your technical debt, I'll give you a ubiquitous and delightful user experience based on search, and I can do so in 3 to 6 months. And oh, by the way, if I'm moving a lot of my structured systems to cloud, I can incorporate all of those, at least with the Google stack. And Maniac will talk more about that. But that is an incredibly exciting, almost democratized approach to technology consumption. Make no mistake, technology only becomes disruptive when it's consumed. And I think when you look at what Lemongrass is doing and what Google is doing, we are trying to make this consumption pattern as smooth as possible. And I think we're starting to garner the data that supports us going in the right direction. Next slide. This gets me excited. And the reason is because there is beauty in simplicity. This is the only single integrated verticalized stack on the market when it comes to foundational data sets like SAP, accelerators like it's going to be talked about with Cortex that gets SAP, Oracle, Salesforce up to a petascale platform like this. Then you have all of the foundational models, all 120 of them, that can do traditional AI, ML, business process, analytics, predictive. You have an entire suite of best-in-class natural language and conversational AI and enterprise search. And as you get your data sets and your models right, now you can apply a fit-for-purpose, cost-effective, secure, and IP-protected LLM to go ahead and extend all of the things that you were doing. And that could be closing your books through bot-based intra and intercompany reconciliation almost in real time. That could be having supply chain agents out proxying the field or the way that your delivery routes are going to need to be optimized. That could be order to cash on service levels and on time and full. You think about the way that you can query the Google data sets, ads, marketing, trends, maps, and really try to bring that in for a rich experience. And it's all in one place. You don't have to replicate. You don't have to move. You don't have to coordinate multiple platforms like you do with my competitors. The last thing I'll say before we move on is, if you go and look at the productivity data over the last 15 years, since 2006, it's been almost half of what it was when the internet was founded, at about 1.4%. In this promise of data and data-driven decisions and data lakes and all those kinds of things, clearly that has not marked an uptick in business performance. And the reason is because data lakes have become data swamps and and wastelands. With Google and with Lemongrass, because of our proprietary accelerators, like I was saying, around SAP, Salesforce, and Oracle, think about it. You get contextual familiarity all the way up the stack. We're going to show that later, but that means a significant amount when you think about consumption. Think about a finance user or a supply chain planner or an MRP controller being able to jump in to a platform like this and see right away contextually familiar data. And oh, by the way, if they're going to employ an LLM, they can go ahead and look at the lineage of that data all the way back to the source system to ensure that it's the right answer. That is powerful. That is where customers are starting with AI and generative AI. Next slide. We have an entire garden. And one might look at this as overwhelming. I see it on the other side, meaning we want to give you choice. We want fit for purpose models. And what Google has done is taken a very, I think, customer centric decision to say, we have our own models. We invented the space. We would love for you to try them. We have other models. Remember, 70% of AI and Gen AI unicorns run on Google. That means we can deliver you Claude 2 from Anthropic. We can deliver you Jasper AI. We can do all these different things. And then really on the right, and this is going to be key, we have to get the cost quotient right for you. And that's why the different size model, fit for purpose, even fit for industry, which is where we're going, is going to be a game changer for you if you pick the right platform, not the right product. Next slide. All right, we'll share this, but as you'd expect, there's a complete rejuvenation and reimagination of business use cases. And Lemongrass is one of our best partners, can set these workshops up. I'll leave this for the end. But the one thing that we all need to do is make sure we get really specific on the problem statement, really specific on the engagement, and start small. Expand from there. Drive quick wins. Go back to the time frame that I mentioned. We can do this much faster than at any other point in time. Let's follow that credo and make sure that this doesn't turn into something folks say was a fad. It's not going to be a fad, but it's on us as customers, as partners, as platform providers like us to really be disciplined about making this work. Next slide. All right. Last couple of things. We talked about this. This is your data. This is your terms. A big difference with Google is everything on the right is LLM. It's frozen. It does not learn on your data. We do not compromise you. We have so many ways for us to pick off value-driving elements through the entire AI of our stack. But this shows you just how protected, singular tenant, and our ability to really track whatever we need to, whether it's residency or sovereignty or other things around recitation or waterboarding or watermarking and all those kinds of things. So just know we've thought it all through. We err on the side of ethical, safe AI. And if you're working with Lemongrass and Google, that's what you can expect. Next slide, please. All right, that's it. Thank you so much. Hopefully this helped demystify some things, and I'll turn it over to Manaik.
Thanks, Brian. Before I go through, I think I can't be more happier to collaborate. We can't be more happier to collaborate with Google, and as Brian talked about, the right platform is critical, in this journey and exciting phase of next revolution or innovation, which is Gen AI. And Brian already talked about, two sides of the coin. One is consumer and enterprise. I'm going to focus on enterprise and how we are working managing critical systems for enterprises and how we can use enterprise data and apply analytics leveraging a Google ecosystem and accelerator, both from Google in terms of Google Cortex and our Lemongrass accelerator. Next slide, please. Before we go into a deep dive, I want to, this slide may be familiar with the SAP customers and SAP user base. Okay, there is a timeline, right? Year 2027, which is a mandate for SAP customers. It's the end of maintenance support and move to S/4HANA, right? So there is a compelling event. Customer needs to think of what action we need to take. Average 50% of business warehouse. Okay, this is the amount of technical debt every enterprise is carrying, because 50% of the BW objects are never used. Now, considering the innovation happening, what is the next step towards building modern data analytics platform? That's what we are seeing, and we are talking with our customers on. Data fabric approach. Data silos still exist, right? Even if you move to cloud, there are systems which are on-prem. There are data warehouse, there are data marts sitting across, and you need to build a strategy. So data fabric approach is coming in, and we'll talk a little bit about how we are leveraging one of the ecosystem, GCP ecosystem toolset to manage that. Next slide, please. Now, these are some of the challenges what we are hearing our customers are facing, and with respect to two things. One is SAP systems, so they have business warehouse, and it comes with high licensing costs, right? We already discussed about the technical debt. Now customers are talking about it. How do we kind of be cost effective in this modern era and use innovation? Second is any time you need to do changes, right? Brian talked about financial reporting and other kind of reporting we do, and if there are changes to be done, okay, it goes to IT right now. It takes almost 4 to 6 weeks to build something on BW. It's not kind of agile and flexible. And on top of that, if you are from SAP, you are definitely familiar with the data objects and data dictionary. It's complex to understand, and that's why Brian also mentioned about how our accelerator can help bringing in that business context, so users can easily understand. Business users can easily understand on the ecosystem. Last on the SAP system side is we are not only talking about an era where we basically use business data. What we are talking about is how can we get consumer behavior data? How can we get weather data? How can we combine this non-SAP data sources together with our enterprise data to make that real-time decision making and have that competitive edge? On the innovation side, customers are struggling with that. How do I leverage, cloud native ecosystem tools, and Brian mentioned about few, and we'll see that, how we have developed this. So they want to leverage data and AI ecosystem tools. They need a free hand so they can do and build solutions and products and in a timely manner. And one of the things which is coming up is regarding the move, and modernize their business warehouse. There are options, and customers are now evaluating. They have not decided whether to go with SAP DataSphere, whether to be, cloud native. Can we have a hybrid approach, which gives me advantage, so I can, build my modern data analytics platform, which is not for today, but which is for future as well. And lastly, where do we start in this innovative phase, where we have Gen AI and everybody's talking about it? Where do I start? There is tremendous amount of opportunities and use cases, but how do I start, small and prove value? And how do I roll out this across my organization? Because it's not only a technical change, it's a business transformation we are talking about. So these are some of the challenges, we are working day in, day out with our customers. As Henrik mentioned already, we have done 300 successful migration with 100% rate. We have a huge customer base of SAP customers, and we are talking with them on these challenges and how do we kind of build an ecosystem which is supportive of the future. Next slide, please. Now, modern enterprise are data-driven and AI-enabled. Okay, or this is at least a vision. How do I become that modern enterprise? Okay, data-driven we have spoken about, but now what we are seeing is every enterprise wants to be AI-enabled. They want to have implemented an ecosystem or within their workspace and enterprise which is AI-enabled. And we are seeing, there are fundamental, trends, which is making the change. It is driving your business. It is race for AI. Everybody is talking about it. How do we, implement it in an enterprise? Data, big data. We talked about it, right? So weather data and consumer behavior, for example, is important. We're not only talking about enterprise data set. Cross enterprise. Every customer we work with are global. They have, different operational units. And still we have, many SAP systems which are, operating on its own. They are struggling to how do we combine that data set together? How do I get a single insight across? And last but not least is empowered business through self-service. We have already seen self-reporting, self-analytics, for a number of years, but now it's changing. Now is the era of human language, right? Now is the era of Gen AI. Can I be, more be self-service driven using natural language? That is the era we are talking about. And the modern enterprise rely on fundamental pillars, accessible external data. We already talked about how critical is the big data and external data. Abstract one view business data model. That is very, very important for our enterprise, right? If you see the data complexity within SAP, how do I create an abstracted one view which business understands? And that's where Google and Lemongrass are operating on. How do we bring that simplicity so new enterprise can perform analytics? And I'll show you that in a bit. Real-time decision making, right? We are not talking about making a decision, let's build an analytics platform which is one day lagging and we can't have operational reporting and we can't do real time. We are talking about now I need to have my live system and I can use my analytical system in combination to make real-time decision making. Access to latest data and AI tools. We already mentioned this, we need a cloud native ecosystem and multi-platform scalable architecture. That is a new approach. That is the data fabric we are talking about, right? How do we kind of govern across? Can I classify my data across different platforms? Can I have a lineage across, like Brian mentioned, across platforms as well? And all this could be supported in the cloud native ecosystem using cloud data warehouse and multiple approaches. Next slide, please. Now, what we are doing is, we have collaborated with Google and we are working closely to doing pilots, and we have also deployed on production for our customers is our accelerator, right? This is Lemongrass accelerator on GCP ecosystem, wherein we can bring in and extract data out of SAP in real time using Google Cortex framework and BQ connector, which not only provides easy way to extract information from your enterprise system, but also it provides ready-made data marts, order to cash, production planning, inventory, which your users can easily understand and start reporting immediately. And I'll show you a case study where we have implemented this in production for a customer in next slide. And then you can easily visualize it using visualization tools like Looker. But not only that, next click please. Not only that, you also need external data sources, and that's where Cortex beauty comes in, right? It's not only enterprise data like SAP and Salesforce. You can bring in trends and other data, TikTok data, and you can combine that together and build AI models on top of it. And I'm going to demonstrate at the end of this slide that how we have leveraged this framework and extended that to do Gen AI and natural language processing implementation. Next, please. Now, so as I already mentioned, this is the Cortex Data Foundation, right? It provides you accelerator to bring in data from different enterprise data sources and public data sources. Alongside, it also provides you data marts and data models which are readily available. So the value we are talking about is not going to take years to implement. We are talking about 6 weeks where you have something you can start off with and you can customize on top of it. Brian, I'm not sure if you want to talk a few case studies or customer stories about how customers are using different data sets leveraging Cortex framework here?
Yeah, and it's no surprise that these are Lemongrass engagements. You think about our ability to get terabytes of complex SAP data, for example, up to BigQuery and start to put contextual views on it. And we're really talking weeks once we have our tooling in place. And what does it enable? One is a field selling force that does 1 million customer visits a month. And this is now their massive SAP instance. They have Salesforce data. They have SAP proprietary CRM data. Their ability to get a 360-degree view of that customer, also garner trends or news on that customer, and then access their product book in real time for next best offer or real-time offer management is absolutely huge. That's on the commercial selling side. When you think about a large life science / animal health company and what they're doing with finance and all of the structures globally, rising interest rates, fluctuating currencies, geopolitical risk, their ability to get and predict their cash position based on some vendor and supplier records, like Manayak mentioned, and do that algorithmically for their CFO. What does this allow them to do? Settle currency in the optimized country, make sure that they're not on the other side of those trades, be able to service debt and other covenants in real time as interest rates are changing. These are the kinds of capabilities that we can offer. And again, I go back to the time. Yes, every project is different, but we can do this in much faster fashion than what you're all used to.
Thanks, Brian. Next slide, please. So as Brian mentioned, right, and that is why, like where we are collaborating on the GCP ecosystem, we have kind of end-to-end stack, starting from extracting data from SAP and non-SAP data sources using Google Cortex framework, and storing data into GCP, processing it into BigQuery, and this ready-made marts, which both Lemongrass and Google provides, which gives you that accelerator to start doing analytics as soon as it's done in 6 weeks' time. And then leveraging, models, and Vertex AI and Palm 2 model for Gen AI. And at the end, having that data fabric, which Google provides in terms of Dataplex, you can, govern and do classification end-to-end across different systems. And so we provide that end-to-end services from Lemongrass side, not only implementation, but also managing this data pipeline, which is very critical for analytics platform. Next, please. Next, yes. So as Brian mentioned, right, this is another example, another case study, where we have deployed for customer using Google Cortex on production environment, where customer SAP currently stands in a private cloud. We have extracted it using BQ connector and deployed it on BigQuery and leveraging Power BI to doing analytics. And this is a classic example of multi-cloud platforms, I was talking about. So customers are choosing more and more having analytics on GCP, right, where you can extract information. And this is an example for a pharmaceutical company which produces vaccination for pets and livestock, where we have deployed this for improving their financial reporting. They want to be more agile with their financial reporting. So we are bringing data from SAP, combining that, and built using our accelerator data marts. We have given something which is in 6 to 8 weeks time, and now we are doing some of the customization customers are requesting.
What's really interesting with this customer, Mike, is not only this Cortex project and pulling data of where their current SAP system sat and a private cloud hosting provider and driving these outcomes, but at the same time, we're also delivering a project of taking that S4 environment from the private cloud hosting provider also onto Google to run cloud native on Google. So 2 projects kind of happening at the same time, and really exciting times for this customer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, we were talking about, that, the beauty of the cloud native, how it provides that agility and confidence and innovation, right? So bringing SAP alongside, the analytics platform now. Thanks, Henrik. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to show you a brief demo on how we have leveraged one of the data marts, order to cash data, in the BigQuery environment, and we have connected our teams, and I'll talk a little bit on architecture, so we can query and you can converse with your business data. Can you see my slide?
Yeah, we can see it.
So this is an example of what we have done is you can converse with your business data. So we can ask questions like BigQuery show annual sales. So what we have done in this is we have order to cash data, which is one of the accelerators we talked about already. Leveraging the BQ connector, we have brought in SAP data into BigQuery, and then we have created data marts for order to cash. So you can ask questions related to order sales, order fulfillment, and all. So this is an example wherein you would get more conversational with the enterprise data. So rather than leveraging, so of course business analytics and business users are going to use the BI tool, but this is very important, and we have presented this in our customer advisory board summit to CIOs, and they kind of loved it in terms of how agile it would be to ask me a question on my finance or on my product, in real time, okay, using an enterprise application or communication application I use. Okay, in this case we are using Teams, but it could be any corporate application which is communication application you use. So and it also understands context. So for example, I have shown annual sales, so I can ask by product, right? So it understands, okay, I need to now go and find out by product, so previous query, and then attach it as this. And what we are doing now is we are building more intuitive, right? That I can also ask questions like, why is my sales down? So we are working on it to improve on, so it doesn't only answer the direct queries or direct questions, but it also understands the context. And you can prompt that context. So, and I'll show you an example of prompting a context. So if I say this, which product is most popular in NS region for 2022? Now I have not configured anything that how does the popularity is evaluated. But if I provide a context around customers who bought 100K plus value of product is popular product. So if I provide that context in the prompt, it understands and goes and bring in the answer for that. And not only that, what we are doing is, apart from that, you see the query itself. So you can validate. So it's going to BQ Cortex reporting, order to cash, sales value not null, and it is grouping by. So people, familiar with queries, they can validate that, yes, it is correct data or it is correct query, it is performing. So that is where, we are innovating together with Google, and this is using, so I'll show you an architecture how we are leveraging Google ecosystem. So yeah, so this is a query, I've provided some context and it brought me, okay, this is the product which is most popular in NS region. And let's go back to slide, please. So this is an architecture, just to give you a view around. The bottom part is what we have talked about, our Cortex framework, our collaboration with our accelerator, how you are bringing in enterprise data and alongside non-enterprise as well, and putting it into Google BigQuery, wherein you have that data platform you can access using BI tools, and you can also put down atop of the architecture, which is Gen AI architecture, where we have integrated Microsoft Teams right now, and we have built a Lemongrass AI Copilot deployed on GCP. We have built some AI templates deployed on GCP, GCS storage, and we are leveraging Palm to text Bison model to query. So this basically is we are talking about how we are building prototypes and innovation. So leveraging this approach, now we have formed smaller groups of customers. We are working together on pilots specific to their business challenge, specific to their financial reporting challenge. Or I was talking to one of the customers yesterday about who wants to understand the part shortages in the inventory and can we implement something related to that. So these are a few things what we are collaborating on and doing on as part of this collaboration. Next, please. Last but not least, right? This is one of the things, if you go and find out, it is very difficult to get SAP expertise cloud native and these accelerators, okay, and expertise, which understands SAP data and context together. And what Brian mentioned about how do we bring that context, to the ecosystem, which is innovative ecosystem. So that's where this collaboration is very, very important, and which provides immediately a faster time to market for customers, right? Apart from that, we provide end-to-end services, advisory, consulting, implementation, and as well operate. So managing data pipeline, people familiar with data warehousing, and I come from that world where it used to take 24 hours to do end-to-end ETL. Okay, it is so important to manage the pipelines. We do operate as well. Thanks for listening to me, and really looking forward to any questions and feedbacks and further. So over to you, Henry.
Thank you so much, Mayank, Brian, and Henrik. I'm going to open it up now for questions. If anybody has any questions, to please type them in the question box. And I'm sorry, did you have any last thoughts? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
So the first question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Does this solution utilize the Google Deep Learning VM?
It's a good question. Architectures are, and this is one of Google's advantages, that, whether it's TPUs, GPUs, or certain VMs, we can create a blended framework that meets the customer's requirements. In some cases, that might include some of the DeepMind and brain capabilities. In other cases, we might be able to use any of those 120 AI models resident in Vertex. So it depends, but it's certainly an option when we think about working with you and with Lemongrass.
Thank you. And here's another one. As enterprises start their journey into AI and generative AI, what is your advice regarding where they should focus their evaluation?
Mike, you want to go first?
You go first, and I'll bring in my enterprise, context to it.
Sure. I think number one, start with the end in mind. Think about where you want to be at a high level in 5 years, because these are significant moves that you're going to make. I think second, come with a business lens. Don't look at this for technology's sake. Look in your supply chain or in your sales and marketing, finance, sustainability, manufacturing operations, customer service, and find a couple of use cases where applying technology in some of these either foundational or advanced capabilities will help drive a new business outcome, engage a group of users that are doing things manually, etc. So yeah, number one, end in mind. Number two, business lens. And then number three, tread carefully, but don't allow for analysis paralysis. Get started. Start tinkering. Start, especially in some of these well-engineered platforms where you're protected. Go out and take a Scrum or a Skunkworks kind of approach, and just start seeing what it can do. Work with a partner, but these aren't big barrier to entry costs. These are things that you can start doing, and then have your coalition behind you to start fine-tuning and expanding.
Great. Thanks, Brian. And I wanted you to go first, because I have recently attended Customer Summit, and I have got the feedback from CIOs, and 10 CIOs in the room, big enterprises. So we are talking about $500 billion, in the room, and we talked about it there, and not a single CIO was like, okay, we don't want to do it. Not a single CIO was like, okay, but all of them were asking questions that how do we start, right? And as you rightly said, we started with, okay, what's your business challenge? Bringing the business lens to it. So then they started talking about, I have my inventory issues, I have my financial reporting issues, right? Can we start with that? Can we start with forming a small group? Can we start small? Do small, get this small value, and then expand over it. Because as we say, it is not only a technical kind of transformation. It is organizational transformation. How you operate your business is going to impact that. So they want to roll out that in a phased manner. So that is a few things. And third point was platform and partner, which is very, very critical, right? Choose the right platform which provides the ecosystem where you can develop quickly, and take that to market quickly, and choose your partner, a right partner to implement it. So very well said, and I can resonate from my last meeting, all those points.
Yeah. And the last thing is leverage prepackaged accelerators wherever possible.
Exactly.
Some of the partners and platforms had, like Henrik was saying, akin to what Lemongrass does on migrations. There's so much prepackaged content, and frankly, if you're thinking about partners or vendors that don't have that, I think that should be a red flag, because that takes so much work, so much complexity, so much technical debt out of the equation for the customer, that you almost need to ask, well, why aren't you bringing these prepackaged accelerators for me to help accelerate my journey?
Exactly.
Excellent. Any last thoughts before we sign off? We're a couple minutes over. If anybody does have any questions that you think of later on, we have Henrik, Brian, and Mayank's email addresses here that you can get in touch with them.
I just want to say thank you again to Google and our team, and to the customers and partners showed up to this webinar. We're super excited to jump in, collaborate with you, and do workshops and understand how we can help you solve problems. It's a really passionate topic of ours, obviously, as you can imagine.
Thank you so much, Brian, Mayank, and Henrik. And thank you, audience, for attending and for your attention. Appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.
Everyone.
Thank you. Bye.